What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new ShawnSetGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about, well, classes. And this was something voted in by the community, so I put a poll out there talking about what videos you guys would like to see more, and have you guys vote on it just to kind of steer the conversation a little bit. And so I did my best to try to cover a little bit of those with actually became perfect timing, because there was a post about class tuning just a little while ago and some changes that came to a number of classes. So we're going to talk about those changes, kind of the winners and losers of those changes, but mainly what are the effects and the main things of balance that we're experiencing. What are examples of good balance? What are examples of poor balance? And of course, if you're watching this video and you're going, well, you missed this or anything like that, of course, this is not meant to be comprehensive, and a lot of this stuff is going to be opinion based. So of course, weigh in, let me know what I'm missing, and then maybe we can do more of an in-depth guide or in-depth discussion about those classes. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing it says that we regularly make class balance adjustments based on gameplay data and feedback from players on class performance, with schedule weekly maintenance in each region. We'll make the following changes to the class that are over and underperforming in various areas. So the first thing I'm going to say about this is that it feels like this is an adjustment not based off of whatever they're saying. It feels like adjustments that are based off of, well, the most recent MDI. And so when we have a lot of high performing players guiding the majority and steering the majority of the conversation, I feel like things get a bit skewed, and you have a lot of opinions that not necessarily they're not totally wrong, but there's a bit of bias involved in there, and you get a lot of clashing and butting of heads in the process, and it really does nobody any good. So let's talk about a little bit of those with a Reddit post that I found. It says upcoming class tuning, incoming enhancement shaman and prot paladin nerfs. So first thing I wanted to look at was basically a tier list. And I saw this right around the same time, which was, I would say a typical comp, like optimal comp, that you would see in WoW right now. And of course, there are some variances. Of course, you have assassination, rogue, balance, druid, frost mage sneaking in that frost DK spot for the most part. By the way, this is a video by Yoda TV, a very quick video just talking about this. I don't know how irrelevant it is now with the changes most recently, but you can see a lot of classes really falling along the strong but not meta, or these are somewhat they have viability, but they're lacking by comparison. But I wanted to cover the main disgruntlements that I saw the most. So first thing that I saw was don't quite understand the survival hunter dev note. So let's take a look at that real quick. So the survival hunter dev note kind of goes over a little bit of, there's a separation of PvP and PvE. It's super weird, by the way they wrote it. It's a developer note. Survival has found a lot of success with 11.0.5 update to Merciless Blow in concert with pack leaders' bleed synergies. We're adjusting it slightly to ensure the build is still competitive, but not quite as dominant. So this person says, not quite sure what it means. It says, are they implying that Merciless Blow is too dominant or pack leader? Surely it can't be Merciless Blow, since a consistent AoE bleed applicator would be surely a must pick regardless of its power. But saying pack leader is too dominant also sounds weird, considering survival is one of 5 DPS specs that actively swap their hero talents between raid and dungeon content. Now, this is something that kind of it raised like concern to me, that I was like, you know what, this is true, in that a number of classes have multiple specs that have different functions, but in order to achieve the function that you're looking for, it's not just going a meta versus non-meta. You're changing your play style completely in order to achieve just a function in game. You are going completely different in order to achieve single target versus 2+ damage. You're going completely different as, say, like a warrior to do any damage versus high mitigation. So it's like, I'm not a big fan of not being able to experiment enough with your class to where you're able to do it within your own spec that you're currently liking, enjoying, etc. It's not about it being meta. It's that it's sometimes not even functional if you're trying to achieve a certain end with a certain spec. And so that to me is what raised my personal issue. And it seems like this happens a little bit more than usual. But they mentioned something else. This is something that I didn't even know. It says what they really need to hotfix is Sentinel Owls missing eyeballs. Tired of that dumb bird not being able to see the target shimmied 2 feet away and doing hell all about it. Not being able to place the bird sucks. Needing a weak aura to track it when it goes to activate so I can hold my bomb uses sucks. And losing damage because the tank pulled mobs out of the ground AoE that only I can see sucks. We were being gaslit into playing Owl. That was wild. Of course, I do feel bad for monks. I think that that monks experience a tough time. Next one says, sad to see classes being held hostage because of small time tournaments, which is exactly what I'm thinking as well. Holy Priest mentioned. So I wanted to mention Holy Priest because to me, the Holy Priest versus Disc, I kind of hear both things all the time. I'm always hearing that this is kind of what I'm referencing. I found something that kind of references exactly what I'm thinking. And it says the main difference between Disc is proactive and Holy is reactive. As Disc Priest, knowing beforehand when big damage is coming is key, so you can proactively put atonement on the party and actually start healing when the damage is done. As Holy, you have to be much better in ways of healing big damage, but no preparation is needed. So it's like it's better spot healing, but unfortunately, especially with something like Mythic Plus, what we have more than ever in Mythic Plus is heavy, unavoidable AoE like healing checks like that are excessive. And so whenever you're trying to decide which spec should I choose, it's like, well, in Disc, as long as I know what's coming, not only can I prepare for big healing, but I have just damage out the wazoo available to me. So why wouldn't I pick that? Like why wouldn't you choose that in any scenario? Because once you get to higher keys, your damage utility is going to matter more than not, because you can have a tier list like this all day and you can say like, well, mine is higher than most. But I hate to break it to you, but if you're seeing an enhancement shaman in there or versus an elemental shaman, you're not going to get picked. But in the situation, elemental is just fine, but it's just like, well, there's another one who has everything that you have, but we got more. And so like you have a bit of a breakdown that they involve later on. You can see here that there is still some changes that are notable for Farseer, but it says, like you can see right here, it says these changes are for Farseer are expected to make Farseer more viable in raiding and specifically single target, but are not sufficient to completely close the gap. In Mythic Plus, Farseer is still lacking too much in AoE to be worth considering. And then in enhancement, it says Totemic is still too volatile for Mythic Plus and in raids. The fights where Totemic is playable is likely to be the same story. So you're seeing a lot of these changes that are trying to effectively close gaps and make essentially the middle of the road people a little bit higher with the rest of them. But what ends up happening is you're kind of making the lowest end specs just enough to be middle of the road to still be ignored. And so this is kind of like a universal thing I was seeing across the board. It's just like a lot of these classes, they're not really reaching that top range meta tier that I was talking about earlier, this meta comp that we're all hoping for. But we're seeing them get put into this middle where it says strong but not meta. It's like okay, but are you still going to get picked for those high keys over any of these? Probably not. So it's like it doesn't exactly line up 100%. It says LMAO, nothing for Havoc again. One tree is unplayable, the other tree is bad. Zero communication. Yeah, so I feel bad about for Demon Hunter. But I mean, the other thing is, like, I was looking at this, like, okay, what are the big changes that I'm going to see in single target? All right, let's take a look. Wait, where's Warrior? Like, where's Warrior in any of this? So for those of you who haven't been on the stream, I'm going to try my best to try out Colossus over Mountain Thane and see if there's notable differences. But like 5% over 2.5, 10%, is it going to be significant enough for me to want to swap those things and go over it? Where I mean Prot I'm sorry, Mountain Thane is notably better defensively. Like I don't know. I kind of want to be invited to groups for survivability, not necessarily for my damage output, but maybe I'm in the wrong mindset to like to understand what's going on. This was the other one that came up though. It says start season as prop pally in horrible state. Switch to blood TK, gets nerfed immediately. Switch to warrior, prop paladin gets buffed to absurd degrees. Start gearing prop paladin, gets nerfed the next day. So I mean, I would say ultimately when the post here it says that there is nerfs to prop paladin and enhancement shaman, let's make something evidently clear as well. These are still leagues above everyone else. So I wouldn't worry about enhancement shaman or prop paladin getting dethroned by any means. I do think that this is an example of good nerfing though. I think nerfing of your top meta specs should always be to kind of squish a bit. And if it does that, then fantastic. I know I said earlier with like the low end, it's like, it seems like they're just being pushed to the middle of the road. I don't think it works as well from the bottom up, if that makes sense. I think going from the bottom up, it's like, okay, but that wasn't really enough. But I think it's always good to squish a little and kind of test it out and then maybe squish a bit more if necessary. Or, you know, recall a bit if necessary. But I think for the lowest end, I think you want to see things shaked up a bit and you want to see some things jump above to that kind of that third row, you know, right where like elemental and unholy sit. It's just that right now, like, for example, when you consider unholy, I think that unholy has a lot of positive qualities. Don't get me wrong. It's tankier than Frost DK, but its priority damage is lower. So it's like, do you want the person who's going to nuke that mob quickly and not have a zillion cooldowns to do it? Or are you gonna pick the person who is decently still tanky, but is able to have higher priority? So, and then same thing with elemental. It's elemental is fine, but you got enhancement. So it's like, which one are you gonna pick? I mean, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. But I mean, I guess it's an easy call. It's an easy call for the person picking in the dungeons, but it's a tough call when you consider like, well, you know, who's decent, I guess, you know, like when you're comparing those two things. That is the most random Resto Druid buff I think I've ever seen. Like, it's fine, I guess, but if you think you need a buff, it does nothing. So I'm not sure what the point is. So let's take a look at that one. So for Resto Druid, Swiftmend healing increased by 25%. I mean, it's not bad to have spot healing. I mean, it's, you know, I guess, you know, I mean, it's not a nerf. It's not a nerf. I mean, did they put anything in the estimates here for druids? Yeah, like a 1%, a 1%. Yeah, I mean, at least they're on the charts, I guess, you know, that's something. It seems so very minor. Which I don't know. I mean, when I consider, I kind of consider Resto to be like right down here where it is, which is, you know, it's good. I just think that it lacks a lot of like zing. I mean, like same thing I've been saying about, you know, Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman's fine, but who are you gonna pick? Probably Disc, and then additionally, you're going to get much more benefit out of your enhancement shaman, elemental shaman, than having the healer there. So it's like it's trade-offs, but it's kind of obvious trade-offs there, I guess. And then, all right, the time between this class tuning and the last was way too long. It's sad to see Blizzard bent the knee to the checks notes 10 MDI players and delayed this tuning. It should have came out weeks ago. Prop Paladin and Enhance have been dominating everything for weeks now. Yeah, and this is kind of the too little too late. It seems like we're waiting for the top ranked players to show off all of the specs and the best ones. All right, we've picked all the best specs now. Now everything is shifting, but they don't want to shift it too much to where now the people picking those specs that they see all these mythic players playing, these MDI players playing, and then now it's bad. So really your best bet is to play some of these low end classes that are now totally swapped up, right? But we're not making enough notable differences to put them into the meta. We're just making them an option for when it doesn't matter to you, I guess, you know, like, or if you're just playing and experimenting and not doing anything serious, I suppose. And then let's see, I had another one. It says, it feels like they released these types of tuning to imitate that they did something. Prot paladin nerf, nobody wants to play tank anyway. The role is very hard and stressful. Now that the last few tanks will just feel as bad as their guy got weaker and quit. I wouldn't say it's as significant as they're saying, but this one says, couldn't have said it better. I don't understand why they would choose to nerf the only fun tank right now. I think to me it makes sense. So I'm going to kind of disagree with that point. I don't think that the nerfs are notable enough to dethrone any meta specs. And I think they do that, like I said, on purpose. But I guess from like a very cursory perspective, if you're somebody who played prot for like the hype that you noticed maybe late in the game, then I can understand if you maybe have that perspective. But I would say for the most part, it's fine. Like it's not at risk at all. I don't think do we have another one saved? It says, they buff Elemental and leave out Shadow altogether, bro. They buff the most useless hero tree in the game. Elemental will not get the slightest bit stronger because not a single person will play Farseer still. Yeah, it's just, I think that if I were to say anything universally about some of these buffs, I mean, for example, I think Frostfire is something that was mentioned quite a bit. I've seen specs put out already about Frostfire, and it does seem interesting what they're doing. But a lot of people are just like, I mean, Frost to me, the orb procs are awful, and then when you have something like Frostfire, it's like it gets this laundry list of Frostfire benefits, but it still doesn't make it as like people still will want to do it. So it's kind of confusing. Like I actually, this is something I don't quite get, because here I'll go to it, because I was trying to figure this out for myself, and so I wanted to, let's see. Frostfire is one of the worst hero talents in the game, and it has been since launch. They're not buffs to the current middle of the pack Frost build. They're buffs to the terrible Frostfire Frost build. Frostfire hero talents have been terrible since launch and are constantly buffed. This is just a continuation of that. Still probably won't even push them into relevancy. So I feel bad. Because like when I look at it, I'm like, oh, this is great. Maybe this is like something that a new viable, like, you know, like spec that's like, okay, like, you know, some changes, some variation, but it seems not. And then like same thing with Monk. Looking at Monk here, so Windwalker Monk Kondo is probably slightly better on single target and cleave fights in the last two that last less than 2 minutes, and about equal on single target cleave fights that last less than 4 minutes. Shadow Pan remains the general recommendation for all content. And it's like, so you look at it and you're like, oh. Oh, okay. So is any of this significant? It's hard to say. So I was saying earlier with like very minor changes with Druid, same thing with Holy Priest. So like Holy Priest, it's like a buff to these, but I think people are just going to pick disc in those situations. Now, a lot of people have said in the comments here, a lot of people are saying that when it comes to Holy Priest actually stands pretty tall on the degree of spot healing and being able to provide decent healing. I just don't know if it's 100% viable when you want somebody with a bit more, you want to get more use out of your healer than just healing. For the most part, you want to have a lot of utility. I mean, that's why to me, Druid is a great healer, just because you have a lot of utility out of that. But it doesn't feel like Holy really got enough significance to really like jump spots or really like jump in there as being relevant in the meta still. And that's kind of unfortunate. Anyways, that's all I got for the video. This one ran a little bit long, I apologize, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed talking a little bit about each of these classes. I will try to have the links to the changes for those of you who missed it, as well as if I missed it, just let me know in the comments. Maybe we can talk about them a bit more, kind of go a bit in depth. These was kind of just like a scan over and kind of discussing the things that I think you know, are the important things about those changes. So hope that was helpful for you. And if it was, give the video a like, subscribe to the page. We are nearing 1,000 subscribers and it's getting closer every day. So I really do appreciate all the support. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.